Tell me if this sounds familiar. You have an idea for a novel, one of those gripping, wake up in the middle of the night sweating about it sort of ideas that won't leave your head. Sure, you're already working on a novel, but this new idea is so great that you'd be silly not to scrap everything else in your life and devote yourself to this. So you do. You begin in earnest on this new idea, and for the first little while, things go great. Words flow so much easier, the prose sparkles. With relief, you think you've finally found that one idea that will work, that one idea that will carry you through an entire novel. Then the cracks begin to show. That spark, that interest, that overwhelming motivation doesn't appear one day. Suddenly the prose doesn't seem as great. The characters feel flat, and you are confronted by the overwhelming amount of work it will take to heave this roughly hewn block of literary potential into anything resembling the glittering jewel your mind so clearly imagined just a short time ago. But wait, for a savior has appeared on the horizon in the form of a new idea for a completely different novel, one which far exceeds the festering pile of bovine excrement that constitutes your current project. Sure, you're already working on a novel, but this new idea is so great that you'd be silly not to drop everything else you're doing. I don't know how common this experience is. I know it happened to me a lot when I first started writing. I thought it would be impossible to stick with any idea for the amount of time it takes to finish a novel, and there seemed to be an endless supply of shiny new ideas waiting to distract me. This cycle really only stopped once I realized that this is actually a process and that the solution is not to jump ship when things get bad. It was this realization that allowed me to get through several drafts of several novels, including one that I've written 8 drafts for. This process has been called a lot of different things by different people and applied to everything from romantic relationships to business ventures, and now I'm also applying it to writing a novel. This process follows a curve shaped like this. I believe this is actually called the Kubler-Ross change curve. It depicts things starting out well before moving into the valley of despair. After a certain point, we climb out of that valley and things start to get better. You will go through this curve as you write your novel. That's normal. You just need to understand how to get through it and what's happening at each stage. And that jumping to a new project when you get to the valley of despair is not the solution. The first stage is defined by ignorance and denial. I've also seen people refer to this as uninformed optimism. This is when your novel idea seems super great and flawless and you think it will be amazing to write and that you will never lose motivation for it. What's really happening here is that you don't know the idea that well. All the problems lurking in the corners aren't visible yet. You haven't figured out the plot holes or the logical issue with the magic system or that a certain character trait just won't work on the page. Your excitement and enthusiasm for the new idea clouds your judgment and you ignore or remain unaware of the upcoming problems. Next comes the Valley of Despair. Oh, despair. I was wondering why that stage was in French. As you start to work, as the problems start to appear, as the true scale of what you set out on becomes fully apparent, you'll start to lose your nerve. The character you thought would be edgy and rebellious turns out to just be annoying and whiny. The magic weapon you created has some major problems you didn't see coming. Your story is quickly moving to the conclusion and you've only gotten 10,000 words into the novel. The idea is just not long enough. If you can find me a writer who hasn't hit this point over the course of a novel, then you've been looking really, really hard. It might happen in the first draft, or maybe it waits until revision, but you will at some point reach the valley of despair. Anything worth doing, anything of value, will involve overcoming serious complexity and massive challenges. This is why people don't just accidentally write novels. To do it well takes effort and it takes work. We value novels because the writer has done that work. They've overcome that difficulty. It's hard to put a massive story together, and that's what makes it worth doing. Most people go through their entire lives abandoning things in the valley of despair. The minute they encounter any sort of resistance, they jump to the next thing and end up back at the ignorance and denial stage. And then once that thing inevitably reaches the valley of despair, they jump to another thing, to another idea, to another genre, to another medium. You will never accomplish anything if you don't push through this despair. You have to confront the problems in your novel head on. You can only defeat those problems through effort, time, and ferocity. There are waves on every sea. You can't keep sailing to different ones looking for calm waters. You have to ride out the waves and potentially take your gravel. Because on the other side of the valley of despair is mastery. Mastery occurs when you overcome the challenges. Mastery is where you learn and grow as a writer and as a human being. Anyone who's accomplished their goals didn't get there by giving up or moving on the minute things get tough. You get through the valley of despair by making yourself better. The truth is that you're not good enough yet. You haven't learned what it takes to make your story work. That's why it's hard. If you knew how to solve the problems in your novel, then there would be no despair. There'd also be no challenge. Challenges are the points that force us to become something else, something more, a better version of ourselves. You are the thing that needs to be invested in. You are the thing that needs to change in order to grow. You are the tool that needs to be honed. The product of this entire journey is not your novel, it's you. Because ultimately, it's you who is going to crawl up the other side of the valley of despair. The other side of that valley is a far less crowded place, but it's the side you want to be on. Wait, wasn't this a sea with waves on it a minute ago? People who jump to new ideas without pushing through this think that they need to find the perfect idea, and the reason that things are getting hard is because they haven't found that one perfect idea or that one perfect novel that they'll be able to finish and not encounter any problems and have everything be perfect the whole way. It doesn't work that way. You're going to encounter these issues no matter what. And if you haven't encountered these issues, if you've never been in the valley of despair, then that's a sign that you aren't really pushing yourself. You aren't growing. These difficulties are a sign that you're confronting things that you've never dealt with before. It's a sign that you're growing. There is actually a positive to the negative. Recognize that difficulty is part of the process. It's not something to be avoided. In fact, if anything, it's a sign of progress. I wish you the best of luck in your novel writing efforts. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please remember to subscribe to my channel and share this video if you think there are other people in your life who would enjoy it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. It was not worth having these pears in the entire video for the single joke that I used them for.